let's say we have a function f of x is equal to 3x minus 2, right? And we need to find the inverse of this function, which is written as f inverse x, like this, right? So if we have to find this function, the inverse of this function, f of x, there are a few steps you need to follow. The first step is let f of x equal y, right? So instead of writing f of x, we're going to write it as y. So we say that y is equal to 3x minus 2, right? The second step is interchange x and y. So we're going to interchange x and y. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So interchange x and y, or you could say swap x and y, whatever you want to say. But all that means is wherever I have y, I'm going to write x, and wherever I have x, I'm going to write y. So instead of y, I'll put x is equal to 3y minus 2. The third step is to make y the subject of the formula. So now that I have let f of x equal y, I have interchanged x and y. Now I'm going to make y the subject. So make y the subject. All right, so let me just write over this line. I have x is equal to 3y minus 2. To make y the subject, it means I want to get y by itself. So I have to move all the other terms from this side to the other side of the equation. So since I have minus 2, I'm going to put it on this side. So it becomes plus 2. When you transpose a term, that means moving one term from one side of the equation to the other side. You do the opposite of the operation. So since this is minus 2, when I move it here, it's going to become plus 2. So I end up with x plus 2 is equal to 3y. Now this means 3 times y. So if I want to get rid of that 3, I would have to divide. So I end up with x plus 2 divided by 3 is equal to y. And now that I have y is equal to x plus 2 over 3, the function inverse, or f inverse of x, would actually be whatever this is. So that is x plus 2 over 3. Okay, let's look at this next example. It says if f of x is equal to x plus 2 over 3, find f inverse x. So I'm leaving this one here so that we could just see the signs, the steps, right? The first step is we let f of x equal y. So we're going to rewrite the function, replacing f of x with y. So that gives me y is equal to x plus 2 over 3. All right, the second step, we interchange x and y. So I'm writing back the steps, and also when you are writing your solution, you have to write all of these steps as well. Because when you're writing your solution, you kind of want to give your marker a story, right? So you're kind of narrating what you're doing. These are called narrations. Right, so we have y is equal to x plus 2 over 3. And now the second step is to interchange x and y. So wherever I have y, I'm going to replace it with x. And wherever I have x, I'm going to replace it with y. So I have y here, so I'm going to write x instead. X is equal to y plus 2 divided by 3. And now the final, well, not the final step, well, kind of the final step actually, we are going to make y the subject. Make y the subject. Right? So let's go. Well, since x is equal to y plus 2 over 3, in order to make y the subject, I have to get rid of all these other terms on the right-hand side. I need to move them over to the left-hand side. So as you know, y plus 2 is divided by 3 here. So to get rid of divided by 3, you have to multiply by 3. So when I move 3 to the other side, I would multiply that by x, which will give me 3x is equal to y plus 2. There's only one more term to move over to the left-hand side. It's plus 2. So when I move that over to the left-hand side, it would become minus 2. And that is equal to y. So now y is the subject. Y is equal to 3x minus 2. And that is your f inverse x. So f inverse x is equal to 3x minus 2. Let's do this other one. Now this one is a type of function that typically gives students some trouble. So I want you to pay very close attention, right? It's the same steps that we're going to follow to find the f inverse of x, the inverse of f of x. The first step, as usual, we let f of x equal y. So we're going to write over the function, replacing f of x with y. So that would be y is equal to x plus 1 divided by x minus 1, right? The next step, as usual, we interchange x and y. And of course, like I told you previously, you have to write down these narrations. So we are interchanging x and y, meaning we're just swapping them. Sorry, interchanging x and y. So wherever I have y, I'm going to write x, and wherever I have x, I'm going to write y. So this would now be x is equal to y plus 1 divided by y take away 1. All right, and now the third step, what we do next is we make y the subject. So let's go ahead and make y the subject. I'm first going to write that down. Make y the subject. Right? So the function is x is equal to y plus 1 divided by y minus 1. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is the denominator y minus 1. Now this is an entire expression. You have to move the entire expression over to the left-hand side. So what I like to do is I like to put brackets around it like this, right? Because really and truly what is happening here is that x is equal to y plus 1 divided by the difference of y and 1, which is y minus 1. So if I move that over to the left-hand side, I will get x times y minus 1 is equal to y plus 1. Now, at this point, this is where students typically get confused. I need all my y's on one side, I need all my x's on one side, right? Well, I need y alone, actually, on one side of the equation. So before I can do that, I have to expand these brackets because y is inside these brackets, right? And I need to get it out of there. So I'm going to distribute x. So I say x times y will give me xy, and x times minus 1 will give me minus x. All of that is equal to y plus 1. All right, and now we're getting closer. We need to group all of our terms with y on one side of the equation. I'm just going to group it here on the left-hand side. So I bring down this term with y, even though it's xy, it's still a term in y. I'm going to move y from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, so it becomes minus y because it's plus y on this side, right? And now I'm going to bring down this one. I am going to move minus x from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. It's going to become plus x. All right? I still don't have y by itself, but I can see a way to get y by itself. Since these two terms both have y, I can factorize them by saying y, well, y can go into xy, x times, y times x is xy, and y can go into minus y, well, minus 1 time. And to make sure that you have factorized correctly, you just think about expanding these brackets to make sure you get back this. So y times x is xy, and y times -1 is -y. So there we have it. And now we are getting very close to the end because, look, y is by itself here. So this means y times x minus 1. So if I want to get rid of this x minus 1, I will divide. So I end up with y is equal to, well, 1 plus x, or you could write x plus 1, doesn't matter. 1 plus x and x plus 1 is the same thing. 1 plus x, all divided by x minus 1. And this is your inverse. So therefore, f inverse x is equal to 1 plus x, or x plus 1, divided by x minus 1. Okay, let's do one similar to the last one that we did. This one is f of x is equal to 2x plus 1, all divided by x minus 1. Find f inverse x. So as usual, the first step, let f of x equal y. We need to write that. Let f of x equal y. And all that means is that I'm going to replace f of x with y, right? So this function will now be y is equal to 2x plus 1, all divided by x minus 1. All right. The second step, we interchange x and y. So let's write that down. Remember, you have to write your narrations, right? So we're going to interchange, or easier word would be swap x and y, because that's literally what we're doing. We're swapping them. Wherever I have y, I'm going to replace it with x, and wherever I have x, I'm going to replace it with y. So this would be x is equal to 2y plus 1, all divided by y minus 1. And now the final step is to make y the subject. We write that down, make y the subject. And I know it's kind of annoying to write this down, make y the subject. Oh, I just realized I put make the y the subject. That should have been make y the subject. Right, so make y the subject. Yeah, I was saying, I know it might be a little annoying to have to write that down over and over again, but there's a benefit to it. The benefit is that the more you write it, the more, well, the easier it is for you to remember, hopefully. All right, so let's make y the subject. Well, in the function x is equal to 2y plus 1, I first want to get rid of the denominator. And to get rid of any denominator, you simply multiply by it. So I'm going to multiply x on this side by the entire denominator, okay? So the x times y, take away 1, is equal to 2y plus 1. All right. Now I need to expand these brackets because I need to get the y out of there. Remember, the objective is to make y the subject. So I say x times y gives me xy. X times -1 gives me minus x. All of that is equal to 2y plus 1. Now you need all your y's on one side, so we need to group the y's together and group all the other terms together. So I'm going to keep xy on this side. I'm going to move 2y from this side of the equation to the other side. And this is a positive 2y. So when I bring it to the left-hand side, it's going to become minus 2y is equal to, I bring down this 1. Since this is minus x, when I move it to the right-hand side, it's going to become plus x. So you see, it's a lot similar to the question that we did right before. Anyway, these two terms have y in it. I need y by itself. So I factorize. I factor in out the y. Y could go into xy, x times, and then y could go into minus 2y, minus 2 times. You check it back. Y times x is xy, and y times minus 2 is minus 2y. So all of this would be equal to 1 plus x. Now that I have y by itself, I can get rid of the x minus 2 because this means y times x minus 2. So if I multiply by x minus 2, to get rid of it, I would have to divide by it on both sides. So on this side, I will end up with 1 plus x divided by x minus 2. You don't need to put the brackets there, but you wouldn't get it wrong if you do. So the function inverse, f inverse x, will be equal to this. 1 plus x over x minus 2.